Greetings! Welcome to OG Foundation in Elodium. I am Sovereignon of Elodium. This is episode 13 of season 10 of developing this off-grid foundation. And for the first day of this week, the weeks here start on Tuesday and they end on Monday. So the reports go out on, or the videos on Monday night after the week is over. So for today, I've got 3 batches. This is what used to be the small tower, and I am turning this into a chicken roosting insulated area. I was thinking I was going to cancel that idea and do it on the other side because it was going to be too complicated to insulate the outside of the tire wall, but I've realized that I can just insulate the inside of the tire wall instead of the outside, and that'll be good enough for the chickens. So in here, I am finishing as much mortar as I need to do, and then what I'm going to end up doing a little later on this week is putting insulated slab in this area, and I think I will do Aircrete in order to insulate it. But before I do that, I want to get all the mortar done on the walls and everything, especially on the lowest level. So I've got one more day of doing that, especially over there, before I can do the Aircrete. I've got some other things going on today, so this is probably as far as I'll get today. These 3 batches, it was only half of one batch right there. And then I think I did 2 batches, or maybe a little more, in this little area. So if you've been watching from last week or 2, this area is finally smooth, which was where all those 3 pieces of rebar were getting integrated. This piece is still exposed, and I'm going to end up cleaning that off. I'll spray paint it with Rust-Oleum, and that'll end up staying exposed as almost like a railing kind of going through, because it would be too obtrusive to mortar the whole thing in. But I packed out a lot on all of these tires here. You can see where it's smoothed. It's gotten quite a bit more than these other areas, but basically all the way around, packing all this out. So before the mortar went in between the tires, there's a bunch of nails that got nailed in between the tires, so that the rock that then forms from the mortar has these nails sticking out of it, which bonds it, which makes that rock with the nails sticking out like a porcupine that is bonded to the tires. So that's why it's called porcupining. And then a good bit over here, so that these are not only packed out, but then the mortar is then integrating them into the wall there to really anchor everything together. And then, so I think that was maybe 2.5 batches. And then there's another 2 buckets, which is half a batch on this side. So packing out this wall as well, and then more in this corner, and just building out that corner because that's a really important structural spot that connects the tower with the rest of the structure. So that's about the extent of it today, and I'll check in with you probably tomorrow. I think I'm calling it a day for now. Wednesday afternoon, and I am all prepped for Aircrete. Aircrete slab coming right up in here. Got a little drain in there, so I basically need to get at least as high as the elbow of that PVC. But I'm aiming to fill this whole thing, starting with 3 batches today. And we'll see how well that covers it. Batch 2 is all mixed up. It's about 6 inches, 8 inches from the top after it's all mixed up. That was batch 1. It's possible I might only get 2 batches instead of 3. I did put a piece of remesh down to prevent future cracking, or limit it anyways. So I'm going to pour this, I'll give you another shot. And there's after 2 batches. So I'm going to let that cure, And tomorrow I'll either do one more or two more. Definitely at least one, maybe two. We'll see. But that'll be all for this for now. Time to clean up and plug my fridge back in. So I was just standing here and really appreciating the fact that the chickens didn't go into the Aircrete, and then the cat came up, so I pet her. And what does the cat do? The first thing she gets a chance, she jumps right down into it. So stupid. Anyways, now she's covered in Aircrete. Another angle of the cat's poor decision making. You can see how thick the Aircrete is. Right there, it's like almost 3 inches. But it's far from level, but... And then maybe closer to 2 inches where she plopped down. But anyways, it's not that big a deal because I'll cover it over tomorrow. I just rinsed off her feet because the Aircrete is kind of caustic. But hopefully it doesn't slump as it cures. Pouch number 3 is all whipped up. I'm going to try to pour it on that yellow lid to protect the rest of the Aircrete from the pour, because I got to pour it up here. It's like a baffle. And then we got some wind going on, so I'm going to have to barricade it better from the wind, but I'll give you a shot after the pour. Hopefully I just need one. There's the 3rd batch overall. It turned into a disaster because I dropped the whole barrel down into there. And then I got Aircrete all over me, and it's not very fun to deal with because it's so caustic, and then it gets everything messy, and there's all these parts, but I really like the end product. So it's all about prep, doing everything beforehand. I messed up a couple prep steps, but should be all good. I basically just need to bring some more pieces of plywood over here to cover up that hole because it's going to rain and it's also windy, both of which will impede the curing process for this. And I got to do all sorts of cleanup now. But I'm pretty happy, I think, with the slope of it and the depth of it, and whatever is messed up I can fix with the mortar layer on top of this one. So I'll leave this and probably we'll get to mortar in 2 days from now. That sucked. But should work, as the rain's coming soon. Kind of neat lighting in here now, with it blocked off. The skylight is much more noticeable. But yeah, so we'll see how it looks after it cures, how much it slumps. Look at this, there's some little critter that came in here. I think it traveled from left to right, jumped in, and then it's like, what is this? And then it's got those tiny little paw prints. And then it went in over there. It didn't make as big of a mess as you, kitty. Where is she? She's meowing from somewhere. Anyways, we made great tracks with Aircrete. So it's Friday morning, the following morning, and it looks like there wasn't any collapse or slump at all, which is good. I don't think I had it on the earlier ones either. In previous batches, I think that one of the primary reasons why that would happen was because I didn't have enough water in the mix. It's sort of counterintuitive, but having more water actually helps it to maintain its structure, because the bubbles don't break. So it's kind of solid. In order to actually, it's actually quite solid, way more solid than I expected. Okay, so I have to push pretty darn hard, I don't know, to get it to crumple. So the ratio, because I'm more water, I mixed it better, and then the ratio being probably like once it was all mixed, being probably about 8 inches from the top of the barrel. So less foam in the mix means that the foam that's there, if it's well mixed, is going to be have a higher concentration of Portland and then a stronger final product. So I'm actually really impressed and happy with the strength of it as well, just after one night. And I was kind of thinking about how I'm going to do the mortar layer over it. If I should just put mortar, some really wet mortar directly on it, or if I should put lath down first. I'm thinking I'm going to do a thin coat of really wet mortar directly over that, so to increase the potential of it sort of bonding and filling all the cracks, and then I'll probably put a layer of lath over that and then more mortar on, so the lath can really spread out the force. And then I might add remesh to the walls. Once the lath is there, I'll be able to walk on it, and then I'll probably excavate the walls where the Aircrete like went up against the walls. I'll like scrape all that off to be able to make a good bond with the walls, and then I'll put a second layer of remesh over the top. I think I'll end up doing that for optimum strength in here, while a minimum kind of width of floor, probably be like an inch of mortar total or something. Other than in the low places, it'll have some more, and then I'll just have to slope to the drain. So it's raining today, and I might not be able to get any on, but I'm going to try to find a break in the rain and get that first batch of mortar on and maybe the lath down. So I use these two, whatever they're called, square things, to cushion putting this piece of plywood or particle board down. So I was able to stand on there, seemingly with minimal effects to the Aircrete. You can see a little bit of, I'm not sure if that's humidity or compression, but basically no effect as far as how strong it is and me being able to be on it, so long as the weight is dispersed. So I got the first 2 buckets around that, and then really wet, and then I put 1 piece of lath down on top of that section, and because otherwise I wasn't able to access it, because there's no access points, you got to come in from above. So now I'll get the other 2 buckets of this batch, get them really wet, put them in this middle spot, and then throw some more lath over it, and with any extra mortar I have, just get a little bit of coverage on the lath. And assuming the lath has decent coverage, I should be able to walk on this. And this is the next day. I thought it was going to be 2 days, but it ended up curing. The Aircrete cured a lot stronger than I expected. And then with the rest of this, if I can get a bit of metal tensile strength in there, then tomorrow I'll be able to walk on the whole thing, and then do the final layer with the remesh to tie the subfloor here into the walls, so that the weight is distributed more to the walls than the Aircrete slab below. So that's after 1 batch of mortar. There's pretty good lath coverage. There's like a 1 1/4 sheets of lath, just not much overlapping. We're just getting some over the whole thing, which will help to spread the weight out. When you step down, it'll spread the weight out over a larger area of Aircrete, so that once that all dries, it can be walked on probably tomorrow. But that's probably it for in here for today. So it's the following morning, Saturday, and this is all good to walk on now. You can kind of see the pieces of lath in there. So it's just a very thin layer of mortar, and then the edge of the remesh coming in from the first sheet that was in Aircrete. So I've got this second sheet of remesh, and I'm going to just put that on top and then do another batch of mortar. Second layer of remesh is ready. So it's got the remesh and then lath and then remesh. So it's a remesh, lath, remesh sandwich. It's a little bit of a different angle from the first piece. And covers the whole area. Time for mortar. So here's with the next batch of mortar. The remesh is just about all covered. It's just the areas where these obstacles are that are weighing down the remesh so that it doesn't get too high. So later today I should be able to take those off, fill in the holes, and then get it all to drain to the drain there. This is where I had started that little wall section last week, bending that piece of lath and getting the bottom anchored in. So I was able to do the bending part just by putting one arm on either side of it and then smearing up. And then there's a straight part there that I was able to use a form for. So I'm going to take the form off and then I'll give you a shot of that, bend the staples, and I've got a tiny bit of mortar left over from that slab I just did. It should be just enough to cover up where that form was. So there it is, nice and straight. Just bend the staples, knock down some of those rough edges, and then smooth it all over. So this little section here is just about done. Oops. And I'm happy with the curve it takes. I'm gonna, this last little bit here, well, the lighting kind of accentuates it, but I'll smooth that out, that transition just a little bit. But it leans out just slightly to give the impression that the walking space is wider and more open. And then I just gotta figure out the bend for there and how I want to connect that to the next section. And I'm gonna end up putting a section up over there as well. But all that probably later in the day. I gotta go take out the trash. So after one more batch of mortar, it's all covered, and as far as I can tell, it's all shedding water to the drain there, except for a little bit by that entranceway, which sheds to that opening. But this is all good, so I just hope there's no animals that go on it. And then once this is a solid floor, I can start working on the insulating the walls. Another thing I got done today is clearing out this loft in the entry hall, and I'm gonna put a queen size mattress up there. And even though this is kind of like the storage area, it'll be kind of like a guest room. It's got a lot of light and plenty of space for a bed, and a lot better than the other guest room. And then the other thing I got started on today is getting chicken wire in these windows. So I think I'm gonna just mortar it into place, which I was kind of hesitant about, but I'm going for it. And so it's gonna take a number of different batches, but at this point I'm just trying to get the chicken wire kind of up in the window spaces. And then basically once I finish all those windows, then it's just this main opening here, and then the arch opening in the what will be the chicken nest area. So I'll have to get sealed before the chickens will be able to be in here, and then I'll just have to build them some roosting type stuff. But it'll be a big move to move them in here, and then once this is done, I can take all my tools out of here, and that'll be a big completion and transition thing. I'm looking forward to that, but I'm still a ways out. Sunday morning, we're spared from the animals, and we're all good. It's really nice having the slope going backwards against the slope of the hill, because when you're in here it feels extra solid because you're sloped away from that, which was the whole thing about psychologically in this tower. After it has started tipping, whenever you'd be in here, you'd get the impression that it's tipping, and that was partially because of the floor, but also because of the walls. So now that the floor is fixed, the actual effect of the tipping was solved by the whole buttress project out here that you can't really see. And I'm slowly changing the wall aesthetic, reinforcing it with the mortar so that it doesn't look to be tipping. The rebar additions also prevent the tipping because it's all anchored into the other structure. But basically, I'm really happy with this floor. It maximizes the space in here. The high point is basically right where I'm standing, where kind of the water will fork to the right or the left, and then the rest of it is really well sloped to this little 3/4 inch drain there. Get that little bit of Portland out of the inside of it. So I'm really happy with this floor. So we've got an Aircrete slab insulation on the floor and on the roof above us. And now today I'm going to be thinking about these walls and using plywood, insulation panels, foam, and whatnot, figuring out how to insulate this chicken nest. So the first step in here, now that the floor is all flat, is to finish up the top part where the tire wall transitions to the ferro cement up top, and round that out quite a bit to help to disperse and pack it out to help to disperse the weight from above further down the tire wall, and to clean up this whole area around that black fitting from underneath to make a good mortar transition for all that. So it's one coat, got a lot of coverage, but it clearly needs more. But I gotta wait for that to dry to add more. But I might be able to start on that front face as I'm waiting for this to dry. Sunday morning, all ready for mortar. I put some lath in the holes around the rebar to help fill it up faster. So I'm about to add another batch of mortar. Get that as vertical as possible. And I realized that an 8-foot piece of insulation board basically goes floor to ceiling. So it should be really easy to insulate once I can finish all the mortar work. Monday afternoon, this is with 2 batches of mortar on the wall, and there's a bit more to do, especially integrating these 2 pieces of rebar, the horizontal one and then the vertical one. But they've both got a good start on them. I imagine it'll be 2 more batches, but I think this will be the last video for this week, for this episode. And basically just looking forward for the next week for finishing this stonework and then building out the nest and building a door in there and closing it off, and then starting to cement in these chicken wire windows into this area, and then once all that is done, moving on to the entranceway. So that's what you can look forward to next week, and maybe other surprises, who knows. But that's all for this week. Thanks for watching.